What to do. Normally, the two services on Sunday at 9 and 10:30 mean I preach the same message at both services, but things are a little broken up at this time of year because last week we got to hear the cantata, if you were here last Sunday, and then this weekend, the 10:30 service gets to hear the cantata. So I'm preaching the sermon I preached last week to the 10:30 group. So if you were at the 10:30 service last week, don't go to sleep, because no message comes out the same twice, I've learned. And if you listen, you might find some differences. And if you feel really inspired, you might jump up and finish the message for me. But I feel that the message in the message is something we need to hear, and that's why I'm taking a chance and preaching it to you, knowing there may be just a few of you that heard it last week. So you know the story about the two nuns, if you were at the 10:30 service. The two nuns who worked at the hospital, and were leaving the hospital, and they ran out of gas. So they're pulled off to the side of the road, they get out of the car, and they're looking at their car, they don't know what to do. When a pickup truck pulls up alongside, and a fellow hops out and he says, "Sisters, what's wrong?" They said, "We ran out of gas." He said, "Oh, well, I got a siphon here. How about if I'll siphon some gas out and put it in a can or a bucket, whatever you have, and then we'll pour it into your car, and you'll be good to go. Do you have a bucket or a gas can or something?" Two sisters looked at each other. And, all right. Well, the one sister got into the car and looked, fishing around in the back seat to see if she could find something to put the gas in, and all she could find was a bedpan from the hospital. The guy in the truck said, "It'll do, it'll hold the gas." So he siphons the gas out into the bedpan, hands them the bedpan, gets in his truck, says, "Good luck, ladies," and off he goes. So the two nuns are standing beside their road, along the side of the road there beside their car, and they're pouring the precious contents in the bedpan into their gas tank when a police car comes along. And the officer pulls up alongside, rolls down his window and says, "Ladies, I admire your faith, but I don't think that's going to work." You and I are called to believe the unbelievable. Are we not? As Christians, as people of faith. What, a virgin gets pregnant and she's going to have this baby that's the Son of God? Are you kidding me? Angels out talking to shepherds, bright light. Ahoy, good news. What? Amazing, unbelievable, too good to be true. The good news is it's not too good to be true. It's true, and so it's so good. But sometimes it's hard to believe, even if we're a person of faith. Even if we want to believe, sometimes it's hard to believe. And that's what Zechariah found out in this story from Luke chapter 1. The lesser amazing birth story. You know about Mary and Joseph and Jesus, I'm sure. This is the story of Zechariah and Elizabeth, who were the parents of John the Baptist. Zechariah and Elizabeth were good people. Chapter 1, verse 6 says that they were blameless, they followed all the commandments of God, good church people, believers. And then in the next verse it says that terrible word, but. Whoop, transition time. But they had no children. Yes, life seemed great for them, except there was something missing. Something that they longed for, something that they truly wanted, but something they apparently couldn't have. Now, I wasn't there to talk to Zechariah and Elizabeth, so I don't know firsthand, but I imagine they wanted to have children. They wanted the joy of becoming parents, but there was something maybe even bigger than that, and that is, in that time, in that age, in that society, if a woman couldn't have a child, she was called barren. Isn't that a terrible way to describe a woman? Barren. She couldn't give birth. And people looked down on you if you were a woman that couldn't give birth. They felt there was something wrong with you. It was believed that God must have closed your womb because you were not what you appear to be. You were not such a good person. And so Elizabeth in her time would have been looked down upon. Her desire to have a child was on many levels, not only just her personal joy of being a parent, but not wanting people to whisper behind her back. You see Elizabeth, she's getting old. You haven't had any kids yet. Ooh, I wonder what she did. That's kind of the way it was. I can't read this story without thinking of my sister. I have a sister who's about 6 years younger than me. In all her adult life, she's wanted to be a parent. And not just because she's my sister, but she's a great person and a great lady. And she's tried many times to become a mom. And she's gotten pregnant several times. And our family would rejoice. And I remember one Christmas not too long ago when she announced to all of us with great joy she was pregnant. And we were all so happy for her because we knew the longing of her heart. But then another miscarriage. And now the years have passed. And she is at that point of sort of resolving herself to the fact that she's not going to have that joy and that experience in life. I can't help but think of Jody, my sister, when I read this story, understanding secondhand in family what it must be like to feel that crushing disappointment. And you know, for all the joy we have in Christmas, for the Christmas cards and the Christmas special on TV and the decorating the tree and ho, 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 there are some of us that come to this Christmas maybe like Zechariah and Elizabeth. They are people of God, they're good people, people of faith, but there's a but, B-U-T, something's missing. Something hasn't happened. A longing that's unfulfilled. Can it change? Will it change? It did for Zechariah and Elizabeth. You see, Zechariah was a priest. He was of the family of Aaron, and if you were a relative of Aaron, a descendant, you automatically were a priest. And it meant there were a lot of priests out there. In Zechariah's day, there are estimated to be about 20,000 priests. And the system in that Jewish culture was that the priests would go to the temple twice a day, morning and night, and make a sacrifice and offer incense. And the incense would burn and would rise up to God. And it was this idea that your prayers are going up to heaven. But they had to take turns because there were these thousands of priests. And if you were selected to do that, it was a tremendous honor. So there might be between 800 and 1,000 priests in one unit or division. And they might cover one particular month. And so they would draw names out of a hat to see which priest in that group would get to offer the sacrifice. And according to Luke chapter 1, at this point, Zechariah's number came up. And though it wasn't the lottery, for him it was like the lottery. In fact, he would have been so excited at this point that he probably wouldn't have been able to sleep the night before. It's my turn. I get to go and offer the sacrifice. Some priests lived a lifetime and never had that chance. They were never chosen. So he goes to the temple, into the court of priests, and nearby, in the court of Israelites, all other people would be waiting at sort of a secondary worship experience and waiting for him to come out to talk about his experience. And so he goes in, and of all things, an angel shows up. You know, that's the thing about Christmas that I love. Angels are always showing up, scaring the bejeebies out of people. First thing they say when they show up, do not be afraid. Yeah? They better say that, because the person's like, fear not. Though I scare you to death, I bring good news. So he's there, and he's in the temple, he's making the offering, and then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. Zechariah saw him. He was startled and was gripped with fear. And that's when the angel says, don't be afraid. And the angel says the words we all long to hear. Your prayer has been heard. That prayer you've been praying, that longing you've been holding on to, that dream that you have in the name of God, it's been heard. And not just been heard by anybody, but it's been heard by God. He knows. God has heard your prayer, and the angel goes on to say, I'm bringing you some tremendous news. You're going to have a baby. And you don't even have to worry about naming him, because I'm going to tell you that his name is John. And he will be a significant person for the kingdom of God and the ministry of Jesus. He will come before Jesus and pave the way and call the people to faith. And Zechariah says, oh, that's great. I can't wait to go home and tell my wife. No, he can't believe it. It's too good to be true. And I love the response because it's so honest and it's so earthy. Zechariah asks the angel, how can I be sure of this? I'm an old man, and my wife is well along in years. Now there's one smart priest. He says of himself, I'm an old man, and my wife is very mature. Yeah, I'm going to remember that. She is well along in years. How can this be? Now, if we translate that into today's language, what would that be? Something like, oh, get out. Are you kidding me? No way. Yeah, too good to be true. Some things are like that, you know? Anybody here buy a timeshare? You get something in the mail. It says, free trip. 3 days in Florida, absolutely free. All expenses, you know. And then you read the fine print. It's like, all you have to do is sit through this 90-minute presentation. And then you get the trip. Okay, so there's a little string attached there. Not exactly free. It was too good to be true. Yeah, some things are like that. We use the expression today, there's no free lunch in life. If somebody wants to give you something, what are they up to? What do they want, right? Yeah, too good to be true. He says, how can this be? I'm an old guy and my wife is well along in years. And then Gabriel kind of gets his nose out of joint as an angel. Like he's getting insulted that Zechariah didn't really believe. He's like, listen, man, I'm an angel. I come in to bring you good news and you're questioning me? And more or less, that's what he says. The angel answered, I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and tell you this good news. And now you'll be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens because you didn't believe. Zechariah, you're getting a timeout. You're just not doing the right thing here, so you're going to get a timeout. You're not going to be able to speak until the child arrives. And you just sit and think about what you said. Yeah, for 9 months. He had a little time to think about that. Well, and the baby comes, and he's John the Baptist, and he leads the way, calls the people to repentance and to faith. And how blessed Elizabeth must have been. No more whispering. No more, oh, Elizabeth. No more feeling of guilt. God, what did I do that you should make me barren? But only joy for her and for Zechariah. Yes, sometimes what seems too good to be true can be true. And the beauty of this story, friends, is the name Zechariah in the original language means the Lord remembers. The Lord remembers. You don't always get what you want. I don't always get what I want. You can spend a lifetime longing for something that doesn't come. But the bottom line is, God hears what you want. And God remembers what you long for. And God walks with you through the emptiness and the disappointment and the missing out on whatever it is that you long for. And in that sense, there is still hope because we're not left alone in our struggling. God provides himself, his presence in the midst of our longing and our hurting. And sometimes it takes a tremendous faith to believe, to claim what it is that God has for us. I love Zechariah because, again, he was so human. Maybe he answered like we would have answered if an angel came to us. If you come Christmas Eve and you're standing there with your lit candle and you're singing Silent Night, and all of a sudden an angel appears in your pew and says, fear not.
straw and manure and sheep and fat and all that stuff. Hey, guys, we worship the God of reminds me of the story of the church that was located at the base of the Smoky Mountains. The back of the church was very close to the bottom of the mountain, and this church of about 300 people was blessed with an inheritance. Someone from the church passed and left them this land at the base of the mountain. And so the church determined that it would build a new building. That sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? So that's what they determined to do. And they built this building, and they were ready to move in and have their first service on this Sunday. They had it all planned. They had dignitaries coming. The caterer was all ready. The big party. When the building inspector says, whoa, 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 I'm not signing off on it because your parking lot is not big enough to accommodate the number of people that you have in your church. The people of the church were panicked. We're all lined up. We're all ready to go. We want to have our first service. So the pastor says, we're going to have a prayer service. We're going to worship in the new building next Sunday. And we're going to ask God to make it happen. So we called for a prayer meeting that night. There were about 24 people that gathered in the congregation. They prayed. At 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, the pastor said, all right, everybody go home. Next Sunday, we're worshiping in the new building. The next day, the pastor was in his office at his desk. He hears a knock on the door. Come in, he says. In comes this burly construction worker guy. Takes off his hard hat. Says, Pastor, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is kind of an emergency. I'm working for the construction company next town over. We're building a shopping mall, and we need fill dirt right now. And I've come to you to ask if we could just sort of come and kind of carve out that part of the mountain behind you, and we'll pay you for the fill dirt. In fact, we'll even pave the rest of it to extend your parking lot, but we got to do it right now.